Welcome to the I Work For Me podcast. I'm Melina Lewis, an author, marketer, yoga teacher, and mom, and I'm passionate about people who have created their own business opportunities and who love the freedom of working for themselves. Welcome to the I Work For Me podcast. This is Melina Lewis, and I am thrilled today to have Lisa Bell with me. As you can see behind her, she is called the Word Architect. And I really love that because I've got this kind of like deep lingering to be an architect on the inside. And I have surrounded myself by many friends who are architects. So I love architecture in itself. And then I also love words too. So I'm thinking Lisa and I are going to get on. So without further ado, welcome Lisa to the I Work For Me podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting to you and sharing.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for the time. So, Elisa, I always start off our interviews just wondering what it is that you wanted to be. When you were a little girl, the first memory that you can kind of think of, what was that you wanted to be, that you can remember being or wanting to be?
So I wrote down when you asked me this, and I thought to myself, I don't know if I have a memory like that. And I think at some point I must have wanted to be an air hostess. I don't know why I thought of that, but I must have, as it came to me. But I think also a ballerina, like super little girl, hey? And then as I got older and as a teen, I started writing. I actually still have them. I have books and books of literally written stories.
Wow.
But I never quite translated it into that could be an occupation. For me, it was just cool and I enjoyed it and it was expression and escapism. I don't think I wasn't one of those that had any aspirations to what do you want to be one day, which is a bit sad because I think if you do have that, then you have a little bit of a better path into adulthood. But I think all of this that I'm doing now came very late in life and I do wish that I had latched onto it sooner because I was doing everything else that wasn't creative. And when I started doing this, was like, oh, yes, should I be doing this from the beginning? So unfortunately, not a concrete answer, but that is my answer.
No, that's great. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that you spoke about. Kind of, there's finding what you love doing. I don't want to call it too much a passion because that kind of makes the waters a bit muddy, but love what you're doing later in life. And I feel like a lot of us do that because, we can be influenced by our peers, by our school, by our parents a lot of the time. And so finding yourself later in life isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as you find yourself somewhere, So, and I have friends who, met them in first year varsity and told me what they wanted to do. And they were going to be a lawyer and they were going to work for a firm. And now we kind of in our middle life, let's put it that way. And they're desperately unhappy and they don't want to be lawyers anymore. But there was that fixed idea. So I think it swings both ways. Maybe some people get it right, maybe some don't. But there's no hard and fast rule. So I suppose I'd like to find out from you what your journey was to getting to becoming a word architect.
So, like I mentioned, I did a lot of things that were non-creative, and I think a lot of it happened organically and not necessarily planned. Started as an entrepreneur at 24, working in the insurance industry, of all places. Didn't particularly like it, but it was a great stepping stone to realizing what running a business was. And so it was insurance assurance for a long time. And then my husband kind of dumped his short-term brokerage on me, and that's what I did for a couple of years, and was good at it, but because I'm quite organized, and you need to be in that industry. And then I got the speed in my body. I think I was heading towards 40 and perhaps had a bit of a meltdown and was like, I can't do this anymore. I need to express myself otherwise in other ways or whatever. And then I sold the business, and he said, well, just chill. And I couldn't. So then I started writing. I had already written a novel a couple of years before that, but started writing some more and doing some online copywriting, freelancing, and I even, got qualified as a personal trainer. And that's what I dabbled in. So I was like really not settling on anything. And it was only 5 years ago that someone said to me, you need to decide which one, like choose one. It's not that you can't do the other, but you need to focus and build that business. And then I chose the writing, and that developed from copywriting into a digital marketing agency that now offers a whole bunch of things. And we've grown from just me to now a team of 3 ladies. And we have a lot of outsources that we use. And yeah, it's phenomenal. Last year was in fact our best year, which was kind of weird considering, but I think it made sense because everybody was online. Everybody needed to be online because they couldn't be out. So our business was actually, in the right space at the right time, and we're still growing. So we're very excited actually.
That is really, really awesome. And do you find that kind of working in this digital space feeds your creativity, or are you kind of bolstering that with other things as well?
No, definitely. I mean, it's like the question you asked about, what do you love the most? Is because I get to be creative every single day, all the time. I mean, there's elements of running a business that are not so great, the finances and the processes and those crappy things that you've got to deal with. But essentially, the creativeness of what we do is what spurs me through the day and through, and we love it. And then I do have my author business on the side. So then that's just my own imagination going wild. And that's actually where I want to eventually be, is full-time author. But for now, this has got to sustain and fund that until I can actually get to the point where I can go move away more and more as I get closer to the author full-time life.
Well, yay, go do it, definitely. I'm actually, because I also dabble in writing, I wanted to find out your author business. So you've written a book. What genre do you write in?
So it's urban fantasy.
Okay.
Which if you're not an urban fantasy fan, you won't necessarily understand it. But if I can equate it to, and I hate to do this, but it is the closest to it, is Twilight, that kind of genre. A bit of Harry Potter, but so it's that sort of dystopia world. It's normal people that have some kind of a power, or they live in a world that's a bit, there's a lot of that at the moment on TV. So that's all urban fantasy. So I've got the 2 books out at the moment, which are a set. And then I'm working on a 3rd one, also still in urban fantasy. However, I do want to dabble in some other genres, and I've had some ideas, which some authors will tell you, don't do that, stick with one genre, you're going to confuse your audience. I'm like, no, I'm more than just urban fantasy. I've got like a whole bunch of other ideas coming up there.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would completely disagree. I think there's 2 really great South African authors who show you that you can completely, move in and around different genres. Joanne McGregor and Fiona Snickers. They both do multiple genres, and they're both equally successful. Yeah. And is your audience South African? Are your books set locally, or is it more international?
So both. It is. It's not where I want it to be. I think I need to focus more on it, which is really tough when you've got 45 retainer clients that will want your attention as well on the marketing side. So I do see that as a client, and I try and treat myself as one, and I'm not very good to my client at all. So I need to focus more. But in terms of that question, there's been obviously very local interest because all my people around me have the book. And then I've had some international, and I need to get it actually, I need to push it more into the UK and the US. The urban fantasy, paranormal style of genre is very, very popular in the US and the UK. So the mission this year is to get more reach that way. There's a lot of hard work coming up that's I'm going to have to make time for.
Yeah, no, and absolutely, and it can, and that's a great genre because it's so big, and I'm assuming it's more YA than anything. Am I right?
Well, so initially, yes, I think I started out with young adults, and you got to be so careful there because young adults, you've got to be careful of what you put in the book. You've got to be very sensitive to the fact that if you say young adult, it can't be explicit, sexually or language or violence in any manner. So yes, I would say it definitely suits a young adult market. But again, when I do start to wander a little bit from the genre, I think I'll go outside of that. There's a big market for the next sort of step outside of young adults. I had a client the other day that said to me, she asked for the book, so I sent her the book, and she said she's got twins that are 14-year-old. Do you think they could read it? So it's a difficult one because it depends on the 14-year-old. It depends on. So I said, well, you've read the book. You tell me if they should read it. She says, okay. She'll read the book. She says, no, I think they can handle it. So it's a fine line there with young adults.
It is. It's very tricky because I've got a series also, and I kind of put it at tween young adult, and some 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds will read it and fly through it. Those are your big readers. They'll consume it easily and they're very comfortable with it. And then you'll get a 14-year-old who'll be like, oh, he said the S word. So it's really quite tricky in terms of that, because different people read at different levels and take it on differently. So it is very tricky. But I'm getting totally sidetracked talking writer speak. So we'll pause that whole book business for the moment. So in terms of setting up your business, in terms of the word architect and what you're doing in your digital agency, how did you start that? I mean, you went from writing and then now into providing, end-to-end digital marketing solutions. How did that happen?
So a big sort of instigator of me even taking the copywriting and the freelancing to a business level was joining a referral networking group, BNI, which I'm sure you know about because that's how we got to know each other, through that avenue. And you have to choose a seat. They call it a seat. So I said, what seat are you choosing, Lisa? A writer or digital? At the time, I was mostly blogging, writing, literally web content and blogging. So I said, okay, I'll choose the writer seat. And then it progressed that people started saying, but can't you help me with Facebook? And can't you help me with my Instagram? And can't you help me with this and that? That was more digital, social media oriented. And I realized that I can't just write. I mean, I could just be the, copywriting agency, but I was losing out on business that could be so much more. So we progressed and we grew and we learned, and I got, people on board that could help. And then I actually changed my seat eventually to digital marketing, digital marketing's seat. So it was a little bit not planned. I feel like I don't plan anything at the moment. It just it did come about organically, but now we've now secured our seat, and that is what we do. And we're upskilling ourselves heavily on the digital side, and it's an ever changing world. Yes. It's actually crazy. I mean, if you don't constantly work in all the different platforms and constantly keep up to date, from literally 1 week to the next, you'll go on to Facebook and you'll go, where did that go? Oh, they took it away, or I can't do that anymore. So it's like with any business and things that you deal with, but the digital age is so fast.
I know.
So crazy fast. I don't even know. I think to myself, maybe I should go back to just writing. That seemed like a lot easier than having to, deal with the big honchos of, the social media world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally get that, because yesterday I was on Facebook on Ad Manager, and I was wanting to just do a quick ad for a client. I wanted to prove a point. So I was just going to run a quick ad and show them what we could do. And in that process, I became so frustrated and irritated that eventually I was like, fine, just do it your way, because I wanted it to be a specific group, and then I didn't want it to be this age, and then trying to kind of customize it became such an ordeal. It was supposed to be a half an hour exercise. It was turning into an hour exercise. And I was like, I'm going to wring my computer's neck.
I think Facebook, and bless them, I think they make it, they say it's easy.
It's not.
Any Tom, Dick, Harry can do it. But I think they almost make it to that point where it's not that easy, because they actually do want to support the social media businesses. Because we have become what we are because of these platforms. Take all the platforms away, and we're now just advertising agencies. What are we? You know,
Yeah.
we built this occupation and this business around another business. So it's a little scary sometimes, because you go, well, what if, you know, they fall flat, or what if, you know, especially like this whole WhatsApp, Facebook thing with the data. When that came about a couple of weeks ago, it was like people were up in arms. I'm not using Facebook anymore. I'm not going to use WhatsApp, blah, blah, blah. And those platforms are quite a big part of what we do. And then we were like, okay, so what if people don't want to use them? Where are we going? You know, do we then focus only on LinkedIn? So it is a little scary to have to sort of rely on that other businesses, but I suppose you do with any business, no matter what you're in, you're relying on a certain bigger force to do what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we all have to, at the end of the day, also participate within, you know, government restrictions. You know, if we think about like the alcohol industry and what's happened to them. So there's always someone kind of, you know, tightening the bolts somewhere out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does. It is quite scary to build an entire business. You know, I mean, often if I listen to podcasts about books, and, you know, the more kind of Amazon type author that is writing, you know, prolifically and producing on Amazon, you know, what if the Amazon platform fell away? What would happen to their work and all that kind of stuff? So it is quite scary. But yeah, I mean, people are not going to leave Facebook. Let's be honest. It's like, if you haven't left now, you probably aren't going to leave.
No. And even WhatsApp, you know, people swore, I'm going to Telegram and I'm going to Signal. And as if you're on Telegram, you would have seen a whole bunch of people, you know, loading their accounts. No one, I haven't received one message on Telegram, not one. So, you know, how these things, they get all like hyped up, and then it's almost like they need a conspiracy theory to, you know, latch onto. And it's all just blown away. It's gone.
Yeah, exactly. I know I had one or two like random WhatsApps, and I was like, whatever. So yeah, I totally get that. So in terms of your business, was there anything that you found that was critical in setting up this business? So what's quite nice about your business is that there is no upfront cost. So essentially, you need a laptop, you need connectivity. Okay. You've been in business for a while already, so you probably had those from home already. So, I mean, was there any other cost that you were required to make in setting up this digital agency?
No, initially no. But what has progressed is that, especially when I started bringing team members on board, is that you could to a degree let them do their own thing, but you needed a communication place to go to that we all could connect to. So that meant finding an online platform, and while there are some free ones, we progressed to getting a paid one. So there was that cost involved, and that then is our project management platform. I would say, if anybody's going to get this business, find one that works for you. It connects you all. It keeps everything in a straight line. You know who's doing what, when to do, etc., etc. It helps clients feel comfortable that you're in control of what's going on.
Right.
And then, of course, there's other platforms that we've had to use. So the platform side definitely has a cost to it if you decide to upgrade and take it to the next level. From a business perspective, and not so much what happens inside the business, but the working on the business. You can just, with this business, you can just get away with not spending too much money on things, if you know what I mean. I mean, we don't need stationery, we don't have products, like a product you've got to buy and sell. It is all service related. But the one thing that I've spent money on is business mentoring and business coaching. And especially last year and this year, it was fundamental that I kept my head, you know, in the right place, that I knew if I was going to grow this business, I needed help. So I belong to an amazing business mentor group, and we meet regular, and it's run by a couple of people, and they have been part of my business literally from the beginning, since I, you know, committed to the whole digital agency side. So I would highly recommend that. And there's a cost in that because they're providing a service. There's no physical cost other than an office, and of course I work from home, so that's fine. And all my staff work from their home, and it works. And while I considered offers, I'm like, oh no, I just can't get up and go. And why? What for? Does I spend that money on a physical space? I don't know. Maybe one day it'll become necessary. Maybe we have more people. I don't know if I want more people. So I don't know. Right now it's cool. We're happy.
You're happy.
Yeah, it works. And we can do so much from where we are.
Okay. So you mentioned two things that I'm quite curious about, which is kind of having a kind of a project management or a platform that you can work on as a team. Which one do you use? Just for people out there who might be thinking, okay, cool, I want to work with people, I need a project tool. What do you recommend?
So we use Asana, ASANA.
Okay.
And it is free, so you can use the free one. You can get a lot out of it. It's web based, so we all log in separately, but we all can see all the clients, and it works really well. We've upgraded because we wanted to use a few more of their extra services in that. There's that one which we love and it works for us. Others would probably recommend MS Teams or Slack, Trello. There's so many. Monday is another one. There's so many. But you have to kind of try them out and see what works for you. As an agency, it works well for us.
Right.
Some of these platforms can get quite confusing. Clients will say, oh, can we work on this one with our project with you? We'll go, oh, okay. And then we'll go on, and I find them super confusing because you're like throwing all these messages at you.
Yes.
And the other part of what we do is we also record our time. So we have Harvest, and we've linked that to Asana. And then every time we start a project, we start the timer. And we stop the timer. And I can see, it's more for me to manage whether we're actually costing a project correctly,
yes.
Versus what we consider our hourly rate. And then I can tell by, like, at the end of the month, I'll go and have a look. I'll say, I think we went over on this one. So clearly I didn't cost this one 100%, or we're doing too much for this client. They're sneaky. They're like, we call them creepers. So they like creep in and they get us to do stuff that isn't part of the package. So it's a great way to manage your, there's a word for it now, your your cost of sale, I suppose it would be.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay, brilliant. That's really, really cool. Yeah, I use hours for teams, which is also little timers, because I've also got multiple projects going on at the same time, and so I find it extremely helpful, and that is worth paying for, and especially when it comes to invoicing at the end of the month. So I'll be able to check, as you say, a project scope versus actual hours. And you'll be able to assess that, or if you kind of just free rolling, how many hours that is. And even on personal projects, so I'll sometimes I don't time my writing ever, that would be a crime, but sometimes I time, the editing or that kind of thing. So just as a curiosity function. So that's definitely valuable for people, especially if you're selling services and you're selling hours. It's so important to be able to track your time effectively. Otherwise, you think you know what's going on, but you actually don't. You actually really have to get a machine to time you, to make it effective. Yeah. The other thing you mentioned was being part of a mentoring group. Now, I really, really love that. I think that is so valuable. Can you tell us, are you with a group of other people, or do you have a specific, like, one mentor to one mentee? How does this work?
So I think business mentor groups work differently, depending on what they're offering. Mine started out as purely a group based. So the name of the company is OptiGrowth, and they are a family-run business, and they have years and years of experience across running businesses. So what we do is they have packages, and we meet twice a month. I say we, all the members of the business. So we're all members of OptiGrowth. Twice a month. At the moment, it's all online because of COVID, so we haven't gone back to face-to-face. And we get 2 times 2 hour group sessions, and every month is a different topic, and they have 10 segments that they cover, all covering all parts of business. I've increased my package with them to include a one-to-one. So I have a one-to-one with the one consultant once a month, and then we go deep into like forecasting. hate
Yeah.
it.
Vomit.
So
Mm.
forecasting and goal setting, that sort of thing. And then I've just recently bumped that up even more to focus purely on financial aspects and working on Sage. And I'm terrible at it. Yeah, awful. And I understand that I need to actually focus on it, and hence why I've now chosen to get someone to be my accountability partner, because I am just awful at it. So I'm learning. That's the plan for this year, is to be a little bit more financial savvy. I'm not bad with money. I'm just bad at planning it and looking at where money's coming, money's going out. What am I spending it on? Am I making a profit? Where's it going? I hate all of that. But I do realize it needs to be addressed. Otherwise, you can drop the ball, and it doesn't make sense not to focus on it. Absolutely. So I highly recommend. And if you can belong, there's many groups, so you don't need to spend a fortune on it. You can be part of it almost becomes like a networking group, because you get to other business people and hear their struggles, their wins, and support each other, just even emotionally, not necessarily, buy from each other. That's entirely up to you. But yeah, very, very good. It has helped my business grow immensely.
That's amazing. So I always think of mentoring very much as a one-on-one thing, like I'm paying for this hour, I want to talk about me, I love that the idea of a group acts in so many other ways. Learning from other people's mistakes and hopefully then spotting them, before they happen to you. And then also, learning in a group situation is often so valuable, as well as then also being able to network. So, I mean, you've mentioned networking here. You've also mentioned being part of BNI. So have those kind of networking groups been fundamental to helping you grow your business?
Absolutely. Yeah, BNI was a catalyst, actually. I think I was floundering around as that freelance copywriter, and then Pam, who introduced me to you, she was a big advocate for BNI, and she said, "Come, Lisa, choose your seat, come visit, come do it," and I did, and it's been phenomenal. The business that we've got from that. In fact, if I look at my retainer base right now, I would have to say that directly and indirectly, the way that I got that business probably equates to, I'm going to lie, but I would say at least 60 to 70% from BNI. And the referral marketing is brilliant. I mean, BNI itself is over 34 years old. My husband, in fact, when he ran the insurance brokerage on his own, he was part of BNI, one of the first in Cape Town. So wow. He when he said to him, "I think I must join this network," he said, "Which one?" I told him. He said, "Yes, do it. You can't go wrong." It's phenomenal. It's just business people supporting each other, and they keep it, in sort of a closed environment, so that there's no actual competition, because I'm the only digital marketing agency in our chapter, because there's different chapters, across the world. And there's only one alarm guy, there's only one stationery guy. So yeah, you keep it all. It's a brilliant concept. There are many like that around the world, but BNI, I think, is one of the bigger ones. So yeah, definitely. Referral marketing, definitely.
That's brilliant. And it's something I almost want to kick myself, because, I've always been a little bit allergic to like networking. I nearly said network marketing, and I was like, no, wait, that's completely different. But, like these awkward events that one appears at, and you kind of like hide behind your teacup or your wine glass, whichever it is. And actually, BNI is very, very, very cool and very, very, very on it. I've been to one or two meetings. I often don't know which hat to wear. So that's why I haven't found myself in BNI yet. But I have Pam on the inside. So I consider that to be like, my affiliate association to BNI. But it's something that I think you're recommending, and I would recommend to people, if you're starting a new business, to see if you can find a BNI and a chapter in your area, or similar kind of groupings, because it does, if you're sitting at home as a result of COVID, or you're just working from home and you aren't getting any sales, you're not getting out there, you need other people to refer you.
Yeah. You need people all the time. I think that's the important thing. And another lesson learned is that you need people. there's very rarely a business that exists that does not need people in some manner, whether they're your customers, whether they're suppliers, whether they're your colleagues or mentors or whatever. You need people, and it can be difficult for some business owners, especially if they're not expressive enough, or they don't feel they are, or they're a bit of introverts. So being at a network, you've got to stand up and speak, or it can be a little daunting. I've just pushed my one consultant within the Word Architect to a BNI now as well. And she was like freaking out. But I said to her, you're going to be fine. You'll get used to it,
Yeah.
So, but you do need to put yourself out there. It's a little bit out of your comfort zone. But at the end of the day, it's what makes business is that those connections.
And I think it's even easier now on, things like Zoom or Teams or whatever, because you only have to be business ready from, waist up. And you can, worst case, I mean, you could always, hide behind your screen. But the thing is that everyone's at arm's length, and actually most people are really friendly and probably feel the same way as you. So is definitely, I think something that one would encourage. So so okay, so in terms of your planning for your business, you mentioned you're quite a good planner. You're working on kind of programs that are connecting your team. I wanted to find out, do you then set like bigger goals? I feel like maybe getting a handle on and perfecting your finances is definitely something you're working on. Is there anything else that you're working on, whether it could be your current digital business or your book business? What are your goals around that, especially now that at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, no, actually, ironically, just started doing a goal setting exercise with a client of mine. We're doing a bit of a trade. So she's also a bit of a business mentor, but she's going to focus on more leadership style type of coaching. And I've got a trade with her where she speaks to my staff and helps them be more confident in themselves. And I want them at the end of the day to almost they must see the Word Architect as if it were their business, because the potential for them to become partners is huge. So anyway, so that I'm digressing a bit, but part of that was goal setting and where does Lisa see herself and where do I see the business, and not so much just financially, but do you want to just keep it here? Are you happy here? Is this good? I mean, we're just going to, keep this amount of clients and not necessarily grow it, or are we looking to franchise it, or are we going to, that really sounds like a swear word. Or what are we going to do with this business? Are we going to amalgamate it with another business maybe that has other service, whatever? So all those things are going to come up. We haven't solidified. I mean, in fact, in my diary, I keep looking here because she said you need to write down your short, medium, and long-term goals, which I haven't actually got to, but it's on my homework. And I'm going to, the ones that came up for me were, short-term was getting, the financial side, as I mentioned, on track and understanding that better. And long-term was actually ultimately, as I said to you, getting to the author, I want to be that full-time author. And that means I have to set up the Word Architect to a point that the current staff can actually manage it and run with it. And, maybe I'll be a feeder, literally just feed business in, but not necessarily be the go-to. And that will take a while because people at the moment, they deal with Lisa. They want to deal with Lisa. Yeah. They understand it's a business, but they want to deal with Lisa. So then I slowly wean them off me and onto Angie, who's my sidekick. That's the plan. It doesn't sound like a solid plan, but it's definitely a plan to work towards, and we'll start, getting deeper into it and understanding how do we get there? What needs to happen? Do we need to cull some smaller clients off because they actually just cost us money, and only focus on that level of clients and get less clients but more revenue? I think that idea sounds better to me, because when you start out as a business, as you would know, you take everything.
Yeah,
yes, everything. And sometimes it's such a little bit of income or profit you're making from it. But now they're still clients, which is great because that means they've been loyal, but actually they're costing me money now. So I need to decide, do we say things, sorry, but our minimum package is this. Either you stick with it, we'll give you a little bit more here and there, or we're going to have to maybe put you over to someone, maybe an upcoming little agency that is willing to charge that.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
Very, very tough. Yeah, absolutely. You also don't want them to be sticking with you because they're thinking you're so cheap. Yay.
It's not necessarily
good. Good quality and cheap. Yay. Yeah, no, you'll definitely have to move them off of that thinking. So I suppose that maybe kind of also opens up around, your value and placing value on your time and your business and your staff. How have you managed to kind of conquer that one? Or maybe it's still work in progress, I don't know.
Yeah. It's getting better. And again, like I said, we're timing ourselves. We're keeping track of how, what value are we, what value do we put to our work, and then how do we measure that? So I think that's something that needs time to get to a point where you can go back and say, what did we do? And my ladies are very good with that, and I constantly check in with them, and I say, are you working on something? How long are you taking with this? And then measuring it that way. I'm not sure if I'm answering correctly, but yeah, I think it's a work in progress. I don't think it's technically, if I look at other digital agencies that are much bigger, I mean, I wouldn't like to compare ourselves to Ogilvy, but they are possibly the big shots in the world, and they're huge, but they must have started somewhere and they must have eventually got to where they are. And in order for us to even think about maybe getting to that point one day, we're going to have to work out value versus time spent and all those lovely things. I also don't want the business to become too impersonal. And that's one of the things that came up with our business mentor was that a business is either a survival style business where you literally are living from day to day. So every bit of business that comes in is paying for you to actually live. And it's not necessarily the best place to be. Then you've got your lifestyle business, which I think is where we're on at the moment. We're a lifestyle business in that what we're bringing in sustains the lifestyle we want to have, and we are comfy there. And then of course it's I can't think of all the names now. I think the next one is what is it? It's like a step up. So it would be now the growth part of your business, considering investors and franchises and going on the stock exchange, all that kind of thing. So that's like taking that step further and realizing that people will need to understand it's no longer just Lisa. Lisa, yes, she owns the business. Bill Gates owns his business, but there's no way that he deals with every single client. So it's decided do we want to go there or not. And I'm not sure where we're going with that.
Maybe. Who knows? Maybe you could be, AKA Lisa Gates type. It's I suppose it's an evolution, as you say. And everyone starts somewhere. So good luck. I think there is lots of exciting growth that could come from your business, especially kind of, as you say, so many people are requiring digital agencies at the moment. What would you kind of advise someone either wanting to start their own business or wanting to start a digital agency? What would you advise that they think about before they kind of get going?
Off the bat, say definitely get some guidance or a mentor. Do not initially just step into it without thinking about the business aspect of it. I mean, if you're going to start something, you should do it properly. And I definitely didn't do that from the onset. So consider having that person to throw things at, and put structures in place, and ask yourself the question, where do you want this to go? Is it just going to be, just a nice casual business? I'm going to earn some income. I'm not going to make anything of it. Or where do you want it to go? Which is super difficult to answer. I personally didn't think this business could grow when I started. I said, no one can write like me. No one can do the creative shit like I can. Sorry, it's H1T. And there's no way this business can grow because I am me, and this is what makes the business unique. And I progressively moved from that stance to realizing letting it go. So I think when you start off, you've got to think about that. That's just a business thing. From a digital marketing agency point of view, understand that it's not social media. It's not, when I say that, I mean like when you go on your phone and you scroll away on your Facebook or your Instagram and you look at the picture and like and share, blah, blah, blah. It's not like that at all. It's hard freaking work, and it's soul destroying, some of it, because if you got to sit there and schedule 20 posts on a scheduling platform, it's not fun. It's boring as hell. But that's part of the journey. It's part of your business. I mean, I've employed a couple of people to do that for me, little young up and coming social media marketing diploma chicks. And then I put them in that place. I'll say, well, this is where you're starting. They freaked out. They said, oh, this is so boring. I can't do this. I'm like, I said, oh, I'm sorry, but it's the beginning. You've got to start somewhere. I've got to get you used to this is what it is. It's not fun and all, let's post a story and, no. There's a lot of hard slog. And a lot of young people don't necessarily get that. And I'm not going to stereotypically peg them down as, oh, these millennials, but there are a few that think that, it's going to land in their lap. It doesn't. You've got to start somewhere, and there's some not so good, nice parts of the job as well.
Like every job.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but they think, oh, I love social media and I love Instagram and I'm so good at it. What are you good at? You're good at scrolling and sharing stuff. That's not what this is about. It's definitely not. It's, you've got to have the insights as to why am I sharing that? Are you going to get more followers? What is your game? What is the goal? All these things have to be, thought about. And I do appreciate that there are a lot of people that will go study it, and they've literally created that diploma out of, again, an industry that never existed 10 years ago. And just understand that it's not all flowery and cool. There's a lot of hard work involved, and really crappy, boring stuff. It's like filing. When I was like, 20 odd and out of school, I had to file. Everybody's got to start somewhere.
Oh, man.
In fact, there's a lot. All right, you got to start with filing before you think about anything else.
Absolutely. And it makes me laugh because I also, like, my first job, I worked in the Department of Surgery at like Wits Medical School. Don't even ask. Like, we'll just go with that. And one of the doctors used to make me go down to the library, and I would have to get out, journals would then get stacked in like these big thick books, and then you'd have to go and find that journal in this book, and then she would make me photocopy these trial after trial. And I was supposed to be doing research in the lab, but she was like, she's the research assistant. Like, she could totally just do that, But I mean, I was so like in awe of her, that I totally did it. But I remember one of the doctors once saying to her, yeah, I don't think that's what she's meant to be doing. But, it's like, it's okay. I knew how to use that photocopy machine, baby, and where to find stuff in the library. Like, hello. So skills learned. So absolutely, I think that, that it's kind of, it opens up to, how to hire people and to find the right people. Just quickly before we go, because I know we're probably running out of time, but, your two staff members, they obviously aren't these young social media diploma girls. How did you kind of these, I always think of those American Barbie dolls, but how did you find these people, and what did you find was the right kind of employee for you?
So Kristen, who I haven't mentioned, she's our graphic / digital guru. I actually picked her up through a client who I had to let her go, and she was doing all the graphic work, and I started asking me to do small stuff for me that I was doing on my own. And I realized when she started producing stuff, I was like, wow, this is like, I can't ever produce this. I mean, I'm creative, but I'm not that kind of creative. And slowly brought her in, and her work ethic was just amazing. And which was great for us, and still is, although I have to remind her to please go take a break, please go out with your boyfriend, do something. She's a little bit of a workaholic, and she's not extremely social, which is awesome for the business, because then she's constantly working. But so there was the work ethic, and just the pride in her work that was just very relevant. And of course, she's she's quite particular about stuff and being learned, she does have the graphic design degree and all of that, but she's adaptable, and I think it's her nature. I think we just fit really well.
She sounds
So
like a friend.
yeah, but she's a little bit older, so she's not quite 13, but she's in that, she's a bit older than the little ones coming in lower. And then Angie's actually recently quite a new intake for me. She is just a bit younger than me, so she's over 40, and she actually had never yeah, she had actually never done anything like this before. She had actually been out of work for a long time because of family and husband, and she hadn't needed to work. But her background is actually sales, hence why I'm popping her into a BNI, because I think she'd do really well there. But she's also a bit of a grammar ninja. So I said to her, well, I'm going to throw you in the deep end, and I've seen her written work, and she does all the copy, the social copy for me, a little bit of blogging, not a lot. So she's come in and she's been brilliant, and I've been pleasantly surprised by her work ethic as well. Is awesome. But then I knew that from her previous, work that she had done, because I've known her for years. I think I've just found the right mix. And now I'm very fussy. So every time someone says, "Oh, can we work with you?" I'm like, you got to fit the bill. You got to fit the bill. In fact, very quickly, while we have a minute or two, is one of the things that I'm doing with my client that I'm doing the trade with the leadership stuff, is she does an I3 profile with us. So I don't know if you've heard it before. So it's profiling.
Yes.
And she's done it on all three of us. And she suggested that if I do get in another person, I must profile them. Not to box them or anything, but to understand how they're built and what are their strengths in terms of work-related stuff, so that we can understand how she or he could fit into the business. And would they be a good fit? Because you want different types of profiles to fill the gaps. And I think we've done that well with the three of us, but we've got to make sure we find the next person that will fit well in. You can't have too many of the same things.
Yes.
Because then you just clash too much.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
yeah. I don't know if there's no formula, but I think you can definitely, work on those. The profiling is excellent. I would recommend that.
Brilliant. I think that's great. Well, I'm so glad for you in terms of creating and finding your team. I always feel like, businesses kind of, when you get to that, like 10, I always think is the magical number, where it still feels like a family, and then above 10, it's, it's a complete business. So I'm really excited for you in terms of growing your business and building this beautiful team. So how can people find you? I'm sure there's a lot of people who need your business skills. So how do people get hold of you? If you could just give us your details.
Sure. So the website is thewordarchitect.co.za. And all our contacts are on there. That's probably the easiest way. Our names are all Lisa at The Word Architect, but go to the website, check us out. We're on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. The one thing we didn't chat about, which I'm going to throw in really quickly, is we have a digital magazine as well. Oh. And the magazine is called Word, as in WORD. And it falls under The Word Architect, but it's a magazine for for startup businesses, small to medium businesses, and it's a magazine filled with just tidbits of helpful things on digital, on running your business, on mentorship, we've brought a lot of our clients in because they are instrumental in us actually producing the magazine. Right. And we always try and have a really good cover. So we had last December, we had Edward Kisvetter, who's the SARS commissioner. Right. We had him on our cover. We had Zoe Brown of KFM. And we've had some lesser known covers. And this month coming is Lundy Jack and Mike Hancock, who are the power couple, the global power couple. If you look them up, you might recognize them. And they are they're authors, speakers, business mentors, and very exciting. So that's something that I'm promoting at the moment, a magazine, and lots. In fact, that's the other income revenue as well.
Exactly. We spoke about two. We didn't even speak about the third. Oh, fantastic! Congrats.
I think that's important, to have multiple, businesses that possibly are a little different to each other, but that can support and leverage off each other when, you know, SH1T hits the fan.
Totally. I mean, hello, that's why we're here. I believe in that strongly. I think as long as the core is there, the love of words, everything else kind of flows, right? So really awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the I Work For Me podcast, Lisa. Been really amazing to have you. Thank you.
And we'll connect later because I'm sure I have a million questions for you as well.
Done. Okay. Keep well.
He's a fellow author. I need to pick her brain.
You're welcome. Can't promise much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Aid. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the I Work For Me podcast. I hope you enjoyed this interview and that you feel inspired to take your idea and business to the next level, not only for yourself, but for fellow South Africans too. Please listen in weekly for interviews with South Africa's most inspiring people, and connect with me on Facebook or Instagram at Melina Lewis Author, or on YouTube at Melina Lewis, or if you don't mind, consider supporting the show for a few rand a month by finding me on Patreon at Melina Lewis. Have a great week and namaste.